my T cells are up now. The doubling you're referring to came from use of bitter melon. Came from juicing, vegetable juicing, and I juice my melon. There's many ways to do bitter melon. Enema, tincture, powder, tea. I just like to go to Chinatown and buy the fresh fruit and run it through my juicer with things like parsley, you know, garlic.
Ultimately, my T cell count went from below 500 to 660. Not only that, I was having trouble with kidney problems and liver problems. My kidney enzymes went from 2.2 down to 1.8, and they're still dropping. My liver problems went down completely away through using Chinese herbs. I'm taking astragalus, echinacea, ginseng, you know, a whole host of herbs like that. I'm taking large doses of megavitamins, you know, A through E. And I'm using stress and visualization already, you know, reduction exercises.
When I trusted my instincts, I did better. And my instincts have told me that the natural therapies, the vitamin therapies, are feel better for me and are less destructive to my immune system. So I started to exercise again more regularly. I take yoga classes, which make me feel wonderful. I'm going to a new doctor who has me on vitamin therapies. I take intravenous drips of vitamin C and amino acids. I take a whole range of vitamins, including echinacea and the multivitamin, and a list of others.
A physician of mine, and also that of my former business partner, had seen a program on CNN about something called whole body hyperthermia. That is a treatment where the body is heated up to above a temperature of 108 degrees, which would be 42 centigrade, at which it is known from medical literature that it can kill certain types of cancer cells, certain types of viruses, and also possibly even the HIV virus. It also enhances and boosts the immune system. Prior to leaving, we had extensive blood work done. I had tested PCR positive, which tests for the DNA of HIV, antibody positive, P24 antigen positive, culture positive, and had a CD4 count of about 200. Today I can tell you it is 33 months later. I no longer have any of the Kaposi sarcoma that I had on my thigh, down my throat, the herpes that I had in the lung that caused the cough, made me cough up blood, gone. My CMV, Epstein-Barr, gone. And what astounded the researchers over at the University of Rome and here in the United States was the fact that I went from P24 antigen positive to P24 antigen negative, and I am also now PCR negative, and I am also culture negative, which means that they cannot grow the virus in my blood any longer. Also, my immune system has come back up to normal. I now have a CD4 count of about 8 to 900, but a CD8 count of about 2,800, which they can't explain, and the Pasteur Institute wants to do a little work on.
The only real medication that I'm on is the Antabuse and Zovirac. The Zovirac seems to help with the hairy leukoplakia. I did develop neuropathy, and that was a big problem. And I went into a study for peptide T, and as soon as I got the real medication, the real peptide T, my neuropathy went away, and it really improved my blood work. The drug study was supposedly not successful, and the drug was not going to be approved as a result of that study. And that was very frustrating because it worked for me. So far, they say that they will try to provide me with the medication, but that remains to be seen.
I also believe I take Gamma Guard. I believe in that. Made my T's double in a matter of 2 weeks. My T4s double.
Your armies are just going elsewhere, and the story on the T cells is not fully known yet. Your white blood cell count and red blood cell count will always be a good judge of where you're at, and they're almost normal now.
My count when I started this was about 522. At that point, my regular medical doctor, who I didn't visit too often, wanted to put me on AZT, and I told him that I would never take that. So I stopped seeing him, and after about 3 years of this particular treatments that I've been doing with myself, my count rose to about 948 the last time it was taken about 6 months ago.
I personally was found out that my T cells were 307 5 years ago, and I chose not to take AZT. My doctor didn't encourage me to do it. I spoke with my teacher. He said, you can build up your system, you know, you can just strengthen your spiritual practices. And the downward trend reversed, and I have 5 years with T cells in the 400, 500 range.
I don't want to make too much of a point of T cells because I really don't, in a way, know how important that is. And if I find if I based my health on what my T cells would be, I would drive myself crazy. So I don't pay a lot of attention to it.
My T cell count has gone down, and I notice it goes down when I'm under stress or I'm feeling particularly put upon. So I've learned how to deal with handling some of that stress, and some of it comes through chanting from Buddhism. But I've learned also that I can bring up that kind of T cell count by really closely monitoring what I take and how I feel.
I go to a Chinese doctor. I have 2 Chinese doctors. I practice Chinese medicine, but more than just the herbs. It's Tai Chi, Qigong. These are all things that deal with energy, the manipulation of energy in the body. You have control over your body. I mean, that's been proven for thousands of years, you know. Acupuncture, chiropractics, I swim, I rollerblade, I'm alive, for Christ's sake. We are alive, and that is what has to be instilled in people that are, especially when they first get their diagnosis.
And I study the scriptures, and I you know, don't allow my mind to be dictated by other people's thoughts. I rarely watch TV, I don't read the newspaper. You know, I study the scriptures and I study spiritual things, and that's what I think is important. And I think it's very important for us to come back in contact with just the natural order of things.
Talking about this visualization, you know, they know down to a scientific certainty that your receptor cells and neuropeptides are getting all screwed up with every bad thought you have, and that's going to bring everything down too. So meditation, I do it half an hour every morning, and I'm trying to get it to half an hour every night also, and it's at least 50% of the battle is your thought process, I'm sure.
What I've found in my work with groups of people with HIV is nobody's at any given moment strong and continually, I mean, people are at given moments strong, but nobody's perpetually inspired. Nobody's perpetually an energy source. In the groups that I lead, the HIV groups, the therapy groups, the people that are weak one week might be totally inspired the next. And we need to allow for all the different states of mind that come on with this. And there's no substitute in my work for the comfort and the steadiness and the inspiration that comes from an ongoing meditative practice, through accessing one's own stillness inside, through accessing one's own spirit.
I believe spirituality has a major part to play in my health, and I believe my emotional state has a great deal to play in my health. And I always felt that I wanted to express this to my friends who didn't have to die.
The only people I see getting well with alternatives are those who can laugh, know God, personally know God, and ask for help.
We're not in a position any longer where people are taking into account that it's their own bodies and that they should make a pact with their physician to do whatever it is that's necessary. And if that means that you feel that you want to do acupuncture or you want to do vitamin C drip or ozone or hyperthermia or whatever, that you should be allowed to do it. Unfortunately, the way things are set up, we don't allow that.
I would love to get peptide T. I would like to take it subcutaneously. I would love to do it like that because I saw a friend of mine that passed away, how it helped her, and that she couldn't get access to it. I mean, I can't go to a doctor to get vitamin C. I have to get it through the underground. And this is, you know, there are certain people that give it, but you have to pay it out of your pocket. I mean, I take shark cartilage and other stuff, so it's hard for me to afford.
In spite of the fact that out in the field, in small clinics all over the country and indeed around the world, people are finding methods of survival, of improving quality of life, extending the length of life, stopping opportunistic infections, and they're doing it using a variety of approaches, many of which are non-toxic, minimally toxic, that use natural medicine, and that use some strategically placed conventional drugs. But all of those approaches, because they tend not to be the high-profit drugs, they're not getting federal research, and of course they're not getting private pharmaceutical money being put into them, and therefore we don't have this knowledge being systematized and spread out to the general public through the medical community.
With AIDS, bitter melon is something that the AIDS community is extremely interested in. What is the role of garlic? What is the role of particular herbs and spices? And so I would love to see this studied, even though perhaps there's not an enormous profit motive to do this. I think that's one of the things that we want to do more and more, and we want to be an advocate for this kind of change.
Well, I'm a person living with HIV, living with AIDS, and probably for almost 10 years. And during the great majority of that time, I have used supplements and alternative treatments to help stabilize my position. This is verifiable by my blood results. And the proposition of having these alternative therapies taken away from us or extremely limited or relegated to prescription is a very sorry situation.
And insurance does not cover alternative treatments. Chinese medicine is cash, you know, you have to have ready cash. It's not that expensive, Chinese treatment, but there are alternatives. H2O2 therapies, hydrogen peroxide, where they want $2,500 up front. No one has that kind of money, and insurance is not going to pay for that.
It was very interesting. My poverty at the time, as far as not having any health insurance, saved me because I told them I couldn't afford AZT at the time, which was going for about $8,000 a year. I had no health insurance, and I heard that there were some side effects, and I really didn't want to go on this program.
When you go to the holistic approach, if you go to the right place, you always get the correct answer. And again, there's a way to do things at a more affordable way. So yes, it can be done. We are doing it.